My name is Daniel Grimes. I work at Today's Mail as a salesperson, stylist, fashion stylist. I also do personal training on the side, where I train young athletes and with strength and conditioning and coronavirus survivor.
When were you first diagnosed with coronavirus?
It was on, I don't know the actual date, but it was on a Friday. So my birthday was that following Thursday, which was the 19th. So I don't know if we can kind of like go backwards.
What month was it?
August.
August.
Yeah.
So it was in August.
It was in August when I was diagnosed with coronavirus.
Okay, and then what was like some of the symptoms that you were dealing with?
Well, previous when the previous Thursday, I noticed that day, I went training that day like normal, and I was good. I went training in the afternoon. Went by Publix, got home, and it was about 7:30. I immediately noticed the difference in my energy. My energy just dropped. And I'm like, what is going on? So through the night, I noticed I started having fever. And I was like, oh gosh. Immediately, because of course, what's been going on, I immediately thought it was that. But I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna, just accept that. I wait. The next day, no energy, fever. And that's when I knew. But I didn't go to the doctor then. I waited.
And then do you know what your fever was? Because I know some people have like a 99, some people have like 103, so it ranges. What was your fever?
Yes, at the moment I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't know?
I didn't know.
You just knew that you had it.
I was sweating out of my shirts. The shirts that I had on, it was wet. My bed was wet. So I would have to continually get up and take a shower. Or what I would do is have a towel dry off and put on, because I didn't have no energy to really take showers like that. So I didn't know what my fever was until I got in the hospital. And I think it was like 102, something like that.
Okay, so you had the higher end of the fever.
I had the higher end of the fever.
Okay, and then did you see anything, any symptoms like coughing or wheezing?
Yes, so during the time before I went to the hospital, loss of taste, loss of smell, no energy whatsoever. And man, one of the sickest feelings ever. I'm talking about, I tried throwing up, which I did, but that didn't make it feel no better. At first I was taking ibuprofen, taking Theraflu, I was taking zinc, did the sea salt, did everything, because I was at I'm afraid of hospitals. That's just me. Always been afraid of hospitals. So I didn't want to go, so I was doing everything I could to take it to see if it would make me feel any better, and it didn't. Didn't at all.
And then when you did go to the hospital, did they test you right away, or like what was the course?
Okay, so because of how everything is, they don't want, with people with COVID, they tell you to kind of like not go to the hospital. That was the thing. So what I did was I went to Express Care, and I didn't tell them, because I didn't know if I had it, but I just know
that you didn't feel good.
I didn't feel good, but I knew what other people had dealt with as far as the symptoms, and I was having some of the same symptoms because I kind of diagnosed myself. So when I went to the Express Care, I just told them that I wasn't feeling good and I wanted to be checked out. So what they did was, of course, with the Express Care, they take your blood. They just do normal checks. When the doctor came back, she immediately looked at me and said, "There's nothing we can do for you. You need to go to the emergency room right away." Now, what she told me had me panicking, because she was like, "Your white blood cells is high. They might have to take your appendix out. They might have to do emergency surgery." So I'm like, really? And I really don't have no energy, but I'm like, so I called my mom and I'm freaking out, like, really? So go to the emergency room. They took me right away, gave them the papers, and it was only like 20 minutes I had to wait. When they called me back, there was 3 doctors. I gave them the papers, told them what the lady said. They looked at me, they was like, "Where did you come from?" I told them, the Express Care, they was like, "What was her name?" They was like, "You know what? Don't worry about this. We're going to evaluate you and see what you got going on." And they did. Now, what they found, which was very interesting, it wasn't the COVID first. It was a bacteria infection that I was dealing with. and it was trying to fight the COVID.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. So that's what it was. You know, so they started me, of course, let me go back. They, you know, they did the x-rays and all of that. And then they did, of course, they had to test me. Come to find out, yeah, I had that, but they had to treat the bacteria infection first. So, and then of course, by the paper that you have, I had a couple other things that was going on. Pneumonia in my lungs. Oxygen started dropping. And good thing they called it at the time. Now, what's interesting is, before, although I work out a lot, I try to eat as healthy as I can. You know, it's not as strict because I just try to balance it out. I felt something in my lungs the last 3 years. Not enough for me to go get checked out, but I just felt that it wasn't 100%. So, but anyway, that's what happened.
Okay, so let me look at this one right now. That's very interesting about the bacteria.
Yeah, the bacteria infection, because that's what the doctor say that was really making me sick. I'm talking about, the only thing that I could eat before I went to the hospital, of course, was a chicken noodle soup, orange juice, and of course water. But even when my loss of smell happened and my loss of taste, interesting thing was the chicken noodle soup I could taste. Anything else couldn't taste. But that there I could taste. But that was really what was making me sick. I'm talking about to the point that I couldn't get comfortable in the bed. And now the crazy thing is, I went from that Thursday to the following Thursday. And a friend of mine, he called me and was like, Danny, I know you don't like hospitals, but he say, I need you to go get checked because I feel like there's something else that is going on in your body. Not just the COVID. I was like, I was mad because this particular person is a respectable person. And anytime he told me something, he called me, I could take it to the bank. I say his name on here. It's a good friend of mine, Apostle McIntosh, Brian McIntosh, here in Ocala. He's the pastor of Old Ship of Zion. So anytime he called me with something, I could take it to the bank. So when he called me with that, I was mad because I didn't want to go to the hospital, but I knew when he called, it was like, I have no choice but to go. But I waited because I was fuming hot. I was like, nah, I got to go because he called me, and I respect him because like I say, anytime he tells me something, you can basically take it to the bank. So I waited that next day, and I got up and finally went to the
And then
bank.
that's when they told you that you had the
Had the
pneumonia.
bacteria infection. And it's crazy because he mentioned to me, he said, I can't pinpoint it. He said, but I feel like there's something else that is going on in your body that you need to get checked. And again, once again, he was right, but I'm glad I went.
And then the course of treatment following that.
Yes.
I'm not sure what people do after they have COVID. I know a lot of doctors just tell them to kind of wait it out because it is a virus.
Right.
So what did they prescribe to you?
So of course they had to give me IV and antibiotics to treat the bacteria infection first. So once they got that done, that took place from like 12 that night till about 7 o'clock that morning.
And how were you feeling at that point? Were your symptoms leaving or were
No.
they the same?
No. See, the symptoms at that point, still at that time, I had no smell and no taste at that time. Okay, so once they gave me the antibiotics, the IV, and that next morning, my sense of smell and taste started coming back from that. Then once they cleared that, they they started me that afternoon on what you see is called it starts with an R. I can't really pronounce it.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, but you can
It's
spell it.
the remdesivir? maybe?
Yes, there you go. You said it.
Okay.
Because I remember how they pronounced it to me. So what they had to do first, because they looked at me, they evaluated me, asked me what I do, was I on any medication, blah, blah, blah. So looking at me, the doctor was like, man, you in very good health, very good shape. You know, we could tell. And then they started saying, man, if somebody like you can get it, anybody can get it, you know, because you look like you take care of yourself. And from, you know, the evaluation that they did, they could tell my body, you know, my liver and all of that was in very good shape. So from that point, they was able to give me that starts with an R. And as you can see, if you read down, they gave me 4 rounds of that. Once they gave me 4 rounds of that, which was the course of, 4 days, I was cleared from it. That cleared me.
And you were in the hospital this whole time?
I was in the hospital for 7 days.
Okay.
The
and
whole
so
time.
now the question that I want to ask you is,
Sure.
For as far as symptoms like fatigue or
Yes.
Tiredness,
Yes.
or I know you said the taste came back the next day.
Right.
What other symptoms have you been experiencing to this point? Like,
Okay, now, while I was in, and I get to that, while I was in there, of course, energy, my voice was so weak. Didn't sound like myself. Sounded like an old man, because I was able to talk on the phone. I had my phone in there. And I'm gonna be honest, for that Friday, I got there that Friday night. That Saturday, that Sunday, I had no energy to even take a shower. I couldn't get up. I was just laying there, nothing. And I had oxygen. Once I got out, fast forward, once I got out, fatigue, very weak. My of course, like I said, my sense of smell and taste, all of that came back. I was in very good shape, training, lifting weights, training twice a day, running 5 to 6 miles a day. Couldn't do none of that. My body changed tremendously. I went from when I went in, I was at 171 with muscle mass. When I got out, I was at 157. Wow. Everything. I had to buy new clothes, new personal items, because I had dropped off tremendously. So, yeah.
And then, so that's interesting. I know the weight has changed since you.
Now, my weight came back.
Your weight came back.
My weight came back once. They gave me. I had to take a steroid for 7 days, because while I was in the hospital, the different medicines, IVs that they were giving me, I had to do insulin, so that way, I had to do. There was a couple other things that I had to do to make sure that once I got out, I wouldn't relapse. Mm-hmm. So when I got out, I had to take this particular steroid for 7 days. Now I noticed, even with me eating, I couldn't really eat a whole lot like I wanted to with taking the steroid for 7 days. I still wasn't, my strength hadn't came back. I was able to walk, but I went walking. Once I got out, I had to wait 3 days before I could do anything. And so I waited a week. No, I didn't. After I waited the 3 days, I went that 5th day to just walk to see. I walked 2 miles, but it took me an hour. Whereas before I went in, 2 miles for me is 8 minutes per, so it's taking me 16, 17 minutes. At the most, if I'm like doing a nice little jog, it takes me a 9 minute per mile. But it took me an hour to walk, and I had to walk really slow to try to get myself back. So, but then I didn't, after that, I had to rest for a while. That's why the doctors were looking at me, and my case was a unique one because I was young, but with the extreme effects, but yet well enough to be able to take the medicine that they gave me. But again, it took me a while. I'm just now this past week, not this week, last week, getting back to some type of normalcy. Although I'm starting from the beginning with my training, I was able to get that treatment because I was so well. So that took care of everything. Cleared me, my lungs, everything. It felt amazing. Once I got out, I felt good, although I was still weak, but I could tell the difference in my body from the treatment that I received.
And
Yes.
then also, you didn't have any pre-existing conditions before?
None.
Okay.
No blood
asthma,
no asthma,
Okay.
no diabetes, no nothing. So I've been very fortunate, because of, trying to walk, run, try to balance my eating and different things like that, and stay stress-free as much as possible, which helps us, and that has a lot to do with it. Growing up Black with African-American community, we deal with a lot of health issues. So that plays a toll, that takes a toll as well.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the last thing is, what would you say to somebody who doesn't want to wear a mask or doesn't want to stay safe? What advice would you give them?
Listen, Listen, it's very imperative that I have my mask here, right here, but for the purpose of this particular video, so that way I could talk. But we have to stay safe if you want to live. And my thing is, you have to be considerate of others. That's the main thing, let's think about others, Really quick, if you don't mind, my dad was in the hospital at the same time.
Wow.
We was right across the room from each other. Now, my dad's story is a little bit different because he dealt with the stuff that it was given him, and maybe one day he could tell his story. It dealt with his mind. It affected him. We did not know who my dad was. It took him like 2 weeks to come back. I mean, it was scary to see the way it affected him. And again, me and him got sick around the same time. Although he was sick, I was sick. He was calling me, praying me through. And while he's sick, I went in first that Friday. He went in that Sunday, and we was right across the hall from each other. What's interesting is my dad got out that Tuesday. The doctors allowed him to come in my room to see me. But I'm laying there, I'm upbeat, although I'm weak. But I'm looking at my dad, and I'm like, he doesn't look good. And they letting him go. So he went home that day, got to the house, threw up when he got there, was in the bathroom, couldn't mentally come through. My mom had to call 911 to come get him, take him back. They then had to put him under because he wasn't responding at all. So he was in for a couple more days. They let him out, and my dad still he wasn't responding, wasn't really talking. They had to help him put on his clothes. It was scary because he is affecting him mentally. Finally, this last time when he went in, some particular medicine that they gave him was affecting him, which wasn't what I took. Once they was able to get that out of his system, he was able to come back, from it. But mentally, it affected him bad, So, like I say, maybe one day, maybe he could tell his story. But that was a difference because, again, me and him was in it at the same time, but it affected him totally different. And his thing was that he can hear what the doctors, what my mom, what my sisters, they literally had to treat him like a child, like talk to him like a child because he wasn't responding. The thing affected his mental state just that bad. But thank God that he came through it. Once he came out of it, oh man, we were so happy. And he was able to talk about it. He said, look, I heard everything. He said, but I couldn't respond. He said, my mind had done went so far. And he was like, I see how people perception of what they think can become their reality when it's not. So this thing affects people differently, each individual differently, so. But again, I'll say to, the people out there, man, let's be as safe as we can, wash your hands, something that we supposed to been doing, wear your mask and listen, not only that, get your vitamins, drink your orange juices, eat your fruits, vegetables, because that right there in itself boosts your immune system. So you don't want to just be washing your hands, sanitizing, you take your vitamins, but you're not putting vegetables or fruits in your body because that gets into your bloodstream and it helps. So the only thing that can really fight this thing, wearing the mask, sanitizing, but building your immune system. The more your immune system is built, the better off, as a people will be.